James Colburn had always been the kind of man who slipped easily into the background. Colleagues at the Chicago software firm where he worked would have described him as diligent, polite, and perhaps a little too quiet. He was the analyst whose reports were always precise, whose desk was always tidy, and whose presence was so unobtrusive that, on many days, he seemed almost invisible. 34 years old, clean record, no enemies, no secrets, at least none that anyone could see. He moved through life like a shadow at the edge of a fluorescent-lit office, a figure present but rarely noticed. That all changed on a chilly Monday morning in October. The team was gathered in the break room, the usual low hum of conversation about weekend plans and project deadlines filling the air. James stood by the coffee machine, his hands wrapped tightly around a paper cup. The circles under his eyes were darker than usual. When he finally spoke, it was in a voice that cracked just enough to make people look up. "I have exactly 72 hours, he said. At first, laughter circled the room. Someone asked if he was quitting. Another joked about a surprise vacation. But James didn't smile. He just poured his coffee, staring out the window at the gray Chicago sky, and left the room without another word. The joke faded, replaced by confusion, and then, as the hours wore on, by a creeping sense of unease. By lunchtime, James had deleted every trace of himself from social media. His LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all gone. Profiles erased as if he'd never existed. The HR department received an automated request to close his direct deposit and payroll records. His bank accounts, checking, savings, even his retirement fund were closed with curt final notifications. And then, the most inexplicable act of all, James Colburn walked into a funeral home on the edge of the city, selected a plain pine coffin, and paid extra to have his name engraved on the brass plaque. When the mortician asked for a delivery date, James smiled a little and said, "Soon." Word began to spread. What had seemed like a bizarre office joke now felt like the prelude to something darker. Friends tried to reach out, but calls went unanswered. His family, unsettled by the silence, drove in from the suburbs, only to find his apartment locked and the blinds drawn. By the end of that first day, it was clear this was no prank. As the hours ticked by, the city outside remained oblivious. But for those who knew James, coworkers, family, neighbors, attention built, the sense that something irreversible was unfolding. Hour by hour, minute by minute. 72 hours. The countdown had begun. The second day passed in a haze of rumors and unanswered questions. James was seen only once, ducking into a corner store, buying nothing but a pack of batteries and a bottle of water. He looked thinner, his movements clipped and nervous. When the cashier asked if he was okay, James replied, "It'll all be over soon," and hurried away. His apartment building, a nondescript brick structure on the city's north side, became the focal point of growing concern. Neighbors whispered in the hallway, speculating about police involvement, about mental health crises, about whether someone should force the door. But James had always been polite, always quiet, and no one quite knew how to intervene. By the third day, the worry had sharpened into dread. It was a Wednesday evening, the sun just beginning to slip below the skyline, when James was last seen alive. CCTV footage from the lobby shows him entering the building at precisely 6:12 p.m. He's carrying a small duffel bag, his posture tense, his eyes darting toward the camera as if checking to see if anyone's watching. He never comes back out. At 7:31 p.m., a sharp, unnatural sound rips through the hallway outside James's apartment. Glass shattering, a neighbor later recalled. Like a window breaking, but not quite. The police are called, and they arrive 20 minutes later. The building is quiet. The door to James' unit is locked from the inside. There are no signs of forced entry, no footprints in the dust on the hallway carpet. The windows are shut, the curtains drawn. When the officers finally break down the door, they find a scene that will haunt them for years. The apartment is empty, not just empty of James, but empty of any evidence that a man had ever lived there. No suitcases, no dirty dishes, no scattered laundry. His laptop sits on the desk, wiped clean of files. His phone rests on the coffee table, lifeless and without signal. Not a single fingerprint. No prints at all. Not even his own. But there, in the center of the living room, is a note. A single sheet of paper, heavy cream stock, placed squarely in the center of the coffee table, as if waiting to be discovered. On it, in James's neat handwriting, are 5 words. The timeline has been corrected. The phrase is both cryptic and chilling. It offers no explanation, no apology, no farewell. Just a statement of fact, as if James had fixed something, adjusted the course of events, and then vanished. The investigation that follows is exhaustive and fruitless. The security tapes show no one entering or leaving. The building's maintenance staff confirm that there are no hidden exits, no crawl spaces, no way out except the front door. Forensics teams sweep the apartment, but there's nothing to find. The only DNA present belongs to James, and even that is minimal. No hair, no skin cells, nothing. His phone, left behind and powered off, is examined by digital forensics experts. They find it completely wiped, with no recent calls, messages, or activity. Yet 3 hours after the police arrive, James's mother receives a voicemail. The message is brief but unmistakable. It's James's voice, calm and composed. The nervous tremor of the previous days replaced by a strange serenity. "It's okay, Mom. It had to happen this way. Don't worry, I'm not in pain. You'll understand when it's your time, too." The timestamp is 10:04 p.m. But police records confirm that by 8:00 p.m., James's phone had lost all signal. There was no way for it to have sent a message, let alone place a call. The phone never left the apartment, and no SIM card was removed. The voicemail, by every technical standard, should not exist. The mystery deepens. The media seizes on the case, spinning tales of vanishing acts and unsolvable puzzles. Reddit explodes with theories, each more outlandish than the last. Some users claim James was part of a government time travel experiment gone wrong, forced to erase his own existence to prevent some greater catastrophe. Others suggest he was being hunted by a secret society, one that specializes in making people disappear without a trace. But the most unsettling theory is also the simplest, that James had been reliving the same week over and over in an endless loop, doomed to repeat his final days until he finally got it right. The note he left behind, "The timeline has been corrected," suggests a completion, an end to the cycle. One user on a conspiracy forum describes a dream in which they meet James in a featureless gray room. He looks older, tired but peaceful. "I'm still alive," he says. "Just not in your version anymore." The story spreads, spawning countless threads, podcasts, and late-night discussions. But for all the speculation, no concrete evidence emerges. The apartment is combed for clues, but nothing new is found. The coffin James purchased remains in storage at the funeral home, the brass nameplate gathering dust. It has never been used. Years pass. James Colburn is officially declared missing, but the case remains open, an unsolved anomaly in the city's police records. His family, devastated, holds memorial services each year on the anniversary of his disappearance. Friends drift away, unable to reconcile the man they knew with the legend that has grown in his absence. But the story doesn't end there. Each year, on the date James vanished, his mother receives a new message. At first, it's a simple email with no sender address, just an attachment. Later, it arrives as a text, then as a direct message on whatever social platform she happens to use. Always the same. An image of the coffee table in James's apartment, the cream-colored note still in place, undisturbed by time. There is never any audio, no words, no explanation. Just the silent photograph, as if to remind her, and the world, that the timeline remains corrected, the puzzle unsolved. For those left behind, the absence becomes a presence. The empty coffin, the wiped devices, the locked apartment, all reminders that James Colburn's fate is known only to himself. His story lingers, a cold case that refuses to be forgotten. A mystery that burns in the minds of those who can't stop asking, what really happened? Did James escape the confines of time, slip through a crack in reality, or simply vanish by his own design? Was he a victim, a fugitive, or something else entirely? And if reality can glitch once, if a man can erase himself so completely, how stable is the world we inhabit? For the investigators, the evidence remains maddeningly incomplete. For his family, closure is impossible. For the countless strangers who pore over the case online, the story is a dark mirror reflecting their own fears about memory, identity, and the fragility of existence. James Colburn's disappearance is more than just an unsolved crime. It is a question mark at the edge of reality, a reminder that some mysteries may never be explained, that some stories are meant to haunt us, not to comfort us with answers. So where is James Colburn, and who, or what, knew his time was up? If reality can glitch once, maybe it's not as stable as we think. In a world where the line between fact and fiction blurs, where truth hides behind digital veils and unanswered calls, some stories don't just disturb. They follow you. They linger in your thoughts, in your dreams, in the quiet moments when you wonder if everything you know is as solid as it seems. And sometimes the only thing left behind is a note on a coffee table, the echo of a voice saying, "The timeline has been corrected," and the chilling realization that the story isn't over. Not for James Colburn. Not for us. The questions remain, unanswered and undimmed, long after the final message is received. And so, the mystery lives on, waiting for someone, somewhere, to finally get it right.